Okay, let's dive into this. There's so much talk about AI, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it feels like it swings wildly. One minute, AI's the answer to everything. The next, well, it's coming for our jobs.
Right. The conversation often seems stuck at those extremes, even, among the developers sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we've got this set of source material here today.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a deep dive specifically looking at AI, but crucially, the human role alongside it.
Okay.
So our mission, really, is to cut through some of that hype, unpack what these sources say about what AI can do, yes, but maybe more importantly, where its limits are.
And why humans are still essential, according to this view.
Exactly. What does this material argue is, well, indispensable about people?
Well, this particular source takes a stance that really pushes back against some of that AI takeover narrative.
How so?
It suggests AI just isn't ready to replace really complex human-heavy roles. Think doctors, lawyers.
Or even creative fields like architecture.
Precisely. And it also talks about the risks, the potential downsides of leaning too hard on purely digital systems.
Right, and it uses some pretty interesting real-world cases where AI's logic, that sort of cold calculation, just didn't work without a human understanding the context.
Yeah, those examples are quite telling.
Okay, so let's get into it.
So one of the first points this source makes, which I found quite striking, is how AI, like any tech really, is basically useless on its own.
Okay, explain that.
It draws an analogy, like having social media platforms, but with no users, no one posting, no one interacting.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. The tool needs the person.
Exactly. Building the fancy AI engine, that's not enough. Its actual value comes from people using it, feeding it data, applying what it produces.
Hmm.
The source even argues that making AI cheap and widely available, sort of like what Android did for smartphones, is actually key.
Because that means more people can interact with it, use it, generate value from it.
Precisely. Accessibility fuels utility, and that utility creates real-world value.
Got it.
But then the material pivots a bit. It starts pushing back, quite strongly actually, against the idea that AI will just replace whole professions.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting for roles like, say, lawyers.
Yeah, the source argues, okay, AI can process legal documents, sure, loads of data.
But a real court case, that's not just data.
No, it's messy, unpredictable. You might get unexpected evidence suddenly appearing.
Or a plea change right in the middle of things.
Exactly, or just the human dynamics in the courtroom, how people react.
Stuff an AI trained on past data just can't anticipate or navigate in real time. Only a human can do that.
It's that ability to handle the unexpected, those sudden shifts in the environment or context, the purely data-driven systems. Well, they aren't built for that.
And it's not just sudden stuff, is it? The source brings up doctors, too.
Mm-hmm.
AI can definitely help doctors maybe read scans faster, that sort of thing.
Yeah, as an assistant tool.
But when you have, say, diseases with really similar symptoms, or lab results that are a bit ambiguous,
Right, not clear-cut.
that's where the human doctor's judgment, their experience, their ability to pull together all these complex, maybe incomplete pieces of information, that's critical for getting the diagnosis right.
It's interpreting the nuance, isn't it? The stuff that data alone doesn't quite tell you. It needs that interpretive insight, something beyond just recognizing patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And what about architects? The source seems pretty definite there.
It really is. It argues AI just cannot replace them.
Why? Because creativity isn't just data.
Essentially, yes. Creativity, inspiration, understanding what a person really wants in a space, their unique desires. You can't just feed that into an algorithm as generic inputs.
It uses quite evocative language, doesn't it? Something about needing a living soul.
It does. To express the emotions, the subjective needs that go into truly creative, meaningful design.
That really brings up a core question running through this source, I think. What are we actually aiming for with AI?
Right. Is it just pure cold efficiency? Or is it outcomes that actually work for humans, considering our values, our emotions, the messy reality of how we live?
And building on that idea, AI struggling with messy reality, the source gives some great examples. Systems that look perfect theoretically, on paper.
But then stumble in the real world.
Yeah. It mentions things like text analysis or speech-to-text systems sometimes, just missing the point or misunderstanding crucial context.
Mm-hmm. And the military example it uses is really stark.
Tell us about that.
You can have the most advanced weapons system imaginable, superior on paper in every way.
Right.
But if the actual battlefield is suddenly flooded,
Mhm.
or just thick mud, or the enemy has some countermeasure you didn't expect,
All that theoretical superiority just vanishes.
instantly.
Yeah.
It uses this analogy of a super capable 4x4 vehicle, looks unbeatable,
Right.
but as the source puts it, it takes one rain to cut you off.
Wow.
And it quotes these sayings from the armed forces, like, armies are made of people first, then the machine came second. And wars are not fought on paper. It's all about emphasizing that real-world conditions, which humans have to adapt to, always trump the theory.
That really highlights the gap, doesn't it, between the
Mm.
neat simulation and actual reality.
Definitely. And even when AI does give us useful knowledge or makes things more efficient, the source points to another critical human role we often forget:
Which is,
legal responsibility.
right. Who's accountable?
Exactly. AI systems themselves can't be held legally responsible if something goes wrong, if they make an error. Humans are.
That's a massive consideration, especially as we think about delegating more and more decisions to AI. Who carries the can?
It is. And the source also touches on the fragility, maybe, of going totally digital, totally run by AI.
How so?
It warns about the potential chaos if these entirely wireless, interconnected systems fail.
Like a big power outage taking down servers.
Yeah, imagine a server farm losing power. Suddenly you can't access your money, your ID, anything, because it's all purely digital with no backup, no human workaround.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for redundancy, for maybe keeping some things offline or having human processes as a fallback.
Definitely. And connecting back to those real-world stumbles, the source tells a couple of really striking stories, anecdotes.
Oh yeah, like what?
There was this property management company using AI to pick tenants.
Okay, based on financial data, presumably?
Purely financial. The AI picked someone who looked perfect on paper, actually overqualified financially.
Sounds good so far.
But this person was going through a major personal crisis, something the AI had no way of knowing. And they left the property very soon after moving in. Meanwhile, a human manager had picked a different tenant for another property, someone the AI would have rejected based on the numbers alone.
Let me guess, that tenant stayed.
Much longer. Yeah.
That's fascinating. So the AI did exactly what it was told, optimized for financial stability on paper.
Perfectly.
But it completely missed the human factor, the unpredictable personal stuff that a human, maybe in an interview or just through intuition, might have picked up on.
Precisely. It couldn't see beyond the data points.
And there was an airline example, too. Similar idea.
Yeah, quite similar. An airline used AI to optimize its flight schedules. The goal was maximum efficiency, using fewer planes.
Okay, makes sense from the airline's perspective.
Uh-huh.
How did the AI achieve that?
By creating more connecting flights? Lots of them, reducing direct routes.
Uh-oh. I can see where this might be going for the passenger.
Exactly. The result, passengers were facing incredibly long layovers. We're talking like up to 17 hours sometimes.
Ouch. That sounds miserable.
It was. People were exhausted, frustrated, and guess what happened?
Passenger numbers dropped.
Yep. People just didn't want that kind of travel experience, even if it looked efficient for the airline's fleet management.
So again, the AI hit its narrow, technical target, used fewer planes efficiently.
It nailed that.
But it completely lacked the ability to understand or value the human experience. Passenger comfort, the psychological strain of travel, how that impacts loyalty and future revenue.
Couldn't factor it in at all.
The source then seems to argue, logically from those examples, that many jobs needing a lot of human-to-human interaction just can't really be replaced.
Right. Things like board meetings, for example. Often, the whole point is to hash out complex disagreements face-to-face, read the room, navigate those interpersonal dynamics.
Something a video call, let alone an AI interface, can't fully replicate.
Not really. And even telehealth, which has grown so much.
Yeah, it's useful, but
It has limits. The source points out that doctors often need that in-person interaction for certain diagnoses, for building trust with a patient.
that makes sense. And teachers, that's another powerful example it uses.
A very strong one. Kids in a classroom, they're not just downloading facts, are they?
No, they're learning how to interact, emotional intelligence, how to think critically, how to work with others.
And a teacher can pick up on so much nonverbal stuff. A child's hesitation, their fear, confusion, excitement.
Things an algorithm just wouldn't register.
Right. So while AI could be a great tool for teachers, maybe help with grading, suggesting lesson plans,
Sure, administrative help.
that core human judgment, understanding what a child's slightly off answer really means, or guiding their social and emotional growth through interaction, that needs a human.
Use that presence, that intuition.
Definitely. And the final example the source gives, it's really relatable, I think, relying purely on GPS for your commute.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right?
Oh,
Led down a weird path by the GPS.
exactly. How often has it gone wrong because, say, a bus schedule wasn't updated in the system, or there was a sudden road closure it didn't know about,
Or a bus driver called in sick and the replacement service isn't tracked.
or just sudden unexpected traffic jams?
Right, the AI, the GPS, it's working with data that might be slightly old or incomplete,
Mm-hmm.
needs that constant stream of real-time human input, the transport company updating its info, a driver reporting an accident, other users flagging traffic.
All those human corrections are vital to keep the system actually useful in a world that's constantly changing.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the core argument coming out of this source material seems pretty clear.
Yeah, I think so. It's essentially saying AI, incredibly powerful tool, transformative even. It can definitely boost what humans can do, make things more efficient. No doubt about that.
That's a big but.
But its actual effectiveness, its real usefulness, is still fundamentally tied to humans. Human input, human judgment, human presence.
Because the real world isn't a neat data set. It's messy, it's unpredictable.
It's full of emotions, nuances, context that changes constantly, things that algorithms and raw data just can't fully grasp or handle on their own.
So drilling down, the analysis highlights these key areas where humans are basically essential, according to this view.
Right, there's our ability to handle the unexpected, react to sudden changes.
Then there's creativity, real emotion.
Our skill in navigating nuance, seeing beyond what's just on paper.
The fact that we have to bear legal responsibility.
Our understanding of real-world conditions versus just theory, like that mud stopping the advanced tech.
Our need for and skill in actual human-to-human interaction.
And finally, our crucial role in providing those real-time updates and corrections that keep AI systems grounded in reality.
You know, this deep dive really emphasizes that even with AI advancing so fast, those uniquely human qualities,
Our judgment, feelings, adaptability.
our complex interactions, our search for meaning, they aren't just nice-to-haves. This perspective argues they're essential. They're what make AI actually work well for us in the real world.
Yeah, and the source leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on.
What's that?
It kind of says, look, if we wanted a world that was totally standardized, totally predictable, completely unemotional, maybe AI alone would be fine for that.
But presumably, that's not what most of us want.
Right. So if that's not the goal, then human input isn't just important. It's framed as absolutely necessary, the key ingredient.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About how we design AI, how we integrate it, and what kind of future we actively want to shape with it, making sure humanity plays a central role.